happenings with the Michigan Dog Man. He's here tonight to tell you all about what happened. Dave, welcome to Dogman Encounters Radio. Thanks so much for coming. How are you?
I'm doing great up here in northern lower Michigan.
For starters, Dave, please give us a bio on yourself.
Okay, I'm 44 years old, born in Michigan. Was in the Marine Corps for 4 years after high school. For about over a year now. Doing all right.
Besides being in the Marines, what type of experience do you have out in the woods? And especially, what type of experience did you have in the woods before you had your first encounter?
Well, before I had my first encounter, I would always, as a kid, came to northern Michigan, came fishing streams, walked up and down streams by myself since I was like 7, 8 years old. My dad gave me a lot of freedom when I was a child, and I'd just take off all day, come back at night. And we're up north, you know, so it's really nothing can happen to you except for, maybe a bear or a wild animal. But all the time, even when I was a kid, I'd take a knife with me or, something, When I was older, I used to carry a sidearm, but I don't do that anymore. 45. But besides that, it's after I had the encounter that I really started getting into doing the woods thing. But when I was in the Marines, of course, they teach you, how to hide, blend in, stealthy tactics, where you're not going to be discovered by, anything, not let alone people.
Growing up, did you watch shows on Bigfoot? Did you have a fascination with that kind of thing?
I loved the In Search of One with Leonard Nimoy. That kind of got me into it, but it was more my experiences that really got me into it. I was a non-believer before I heard my first sighting of a dogman. And I didn't believe in that stuff, and I thought it was pure nonsense.
Well, that wouldn't make you any different from most people. Before you had your first encounter, what did you think of people who came forward claiming that they had seen a Bigfoot or maybe even back then had seen a dogman?
I kind of want to believe them, but, I would thought they would have been discovered by now, with all these satellites they have out nowadays, and, at least the government would have knew about it, which is, kind of one thing I've discovered is that the government does know about it, and, they don't want us to know for some reason. I don't know why.
You go out searching for dogmen and Sasquatch.
At night, yes. I'll go out at night, say about 2, 3 in the morning, and I'll go till maybe 5, 5:30. I do this 2 to 3 nights a week to go around walking, this and that. I'll carry like a bear spray, or I actually have a post office spray for dogs. I carry that with me. I've never had where I've had to use it except one time on a bear, but that was wasp spray I used then. But since in the last 19 years, I've been in the woods a whole lot, except the winter time. It's just too brutal cold up here to be walking around in the winter time. It gets like 30 below and stuff. So everywhere I went has only been in Michigan, pretty much. When I went to Florida and visit, I was explored around a little bit, but everything I've experienced that I'm going to talk about today was only in northern lower Michigan.
What kind of evidence have you collected in the field?
Footprints. Yesterday, after hearing noises for the last 3 or 4 days around here, like howls, weird things going on, I've collected over probably about 50 footprints. I've found little structures. One time, here's a good story, I have a food plot where I take food to feed all the animals, deer. It just grows every year because I have so much stuff growing there, apple trees, etc. Well, out of season, I brought some apples. I brought 8 little apples and put them in my gifting spot, is what I call it. And I came back the next day, and these 8 little nice, shiny little rocks right in the same spot, right where I left the apples. Now, I can't explain that, and that's the weirdest thing ever, but that's what happened.
Besides that bear you mentioned running into, have you had any other close calls while you've been out there?
When it all started 19 years ago, I had a job in Reed City, which is about 10 miles from where my dad's house is here. I'd stay with my dad sometimes, and I also had a place in town, so I'd be back and forth was on the way to work. It was probably about 6 in the morning because I had to be there at 6:30. And I had seen something run across the road. So, and at that time, every day, I started watching at that spot. About 3 days later, I saw what I thought at the time was a Bigfoot. It ran across the road. It stopped on the other side of the road. And I actually could see the saliva dripping out of its mouth. That's how close it was to me. It stopped on the other side of the road, looked at me. This was a dogman, which I discovered later because it had the snout, had the ears, smaller legs. It had not human-like feet, but almost like dog-like feet, but big. And I really got a good look at that one. That was the first time I had ever seen any animal, anything like this, and I was just freaked out. I didn't even know how to act. I pulled over the side of the road. My little 82 Chevette is what I think I was driving at the time. This was in July of '95, and it was really near Reed City, which is ironic because there's been a ton of sightings in Reed City for dogman, which is 10 miles from where I live. I mean, a lot. More than anywhere, as far as what I could see online, more than anywhere in the world. It's been 10 miles from where I live. So, there's a lot to discover out here. It's so rugged, there's no people around. Everything around is woods and corn. There's hardly any even towns. The nearest big cities are an hour away. So, it takes an hour to go to Walmart around here.
That is pretty remote.
The last times I went out at night, 4 nights ago, I discovered a big pile of poop. So I took a picture of that. I know it ain't bear. That's one thing I just found recently. And also a few footprints, weird footprints. Giant dog footprints, I call them.
Did you measure those footprints?
I can. They're still there.
Huh. Interesting. If you don't mind, please get back to me on that to let me know how big they are.
I'll bring a tape measure out and I'll get out to that spot sometime today or tomorrow, something like that. But I took pictures and I could actually compare the pictures to the ground where it was and get a measurement if they're not there. Because it has been raining the last few days. But the howls around here have gotten really intense lately. They sound like a wolf, basically. And it's all night. But it's just recently right here.
Are you pro-kill or anti-kill?
Well, I don't want to kill one, but if I was attacked, I would defend myself and kill it if I had to. Now, I've never been. I've encountered, the first time I was in a car, so I don't really count that one, but I've encountered lots of things in the woods, including bears. If they don't attack you, there's really no reason to try to kill one for science. I understand what people are saying about, hey, we need to kill one for science and all this stuff, but I think eventually it's going to be found anyway because it is out there. I guarantee everybody out there listening right now, the dogman is out there and Bigfoot is out there both. And I'll swear on a stack of Bibles, a lie detector, anything I had to do, because I'm not crazy. I know what I saw. And I've been doing this now for 20 years, 19 years. So it's not like I had a job. This is what I've been doing. That and raising a family, pretty much. That's about all I've been doing. So I think I kind of know what I'm talking about a little bit. I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm not an amateur either. I'm in the middle somewhere.
Which one was your first encounter? You said you had encountered both a dogman and a Bigfoot.
The dogman was 19 years ago, okay? But at the time I thought it was a Bigfoot. You know, I didn't know what even know what a dogman was, you know, and I remember it had ears and a snout like a dog. And that was 19 years ago, and that's what I saw first. When it stopped on the other side of the road, okay, it moved like a ninja. I mean, for something that weighed 400 pounds, it moved like twice as fast as you and me. And it was just it just stopped right next to a tree. And it was just the most amazing, I can never ever forget it. It's just, wow, it's just an experience you can't even describe really. It's just, the feeling you have is like, wow, I just saw something that doesn't exist. you don't know what to think. So, and there was no guy in a suit for this one. I'm telling you, I was close enough where if I would have wanted to, I could have ran it over with my car, I think. So I pulled over the side of the road and looked at it. It stopped. It jumped over the road with 2 steps. So this is it's a highway, 2-lane highway. It only stepped on the highway 2 times before it got to the other side. Stopped, turned around, looked at me, let out like a sound, like a grrr, run a growl, I guess. And then it went over by that tree real quick and stopped, and it finally took off and started heading towards the woods. You know, there's these trails all around this area, and I believe they use that at nighttime to go around because there's no houses by them and they're very secluded. They were railroad tracks, but now they're trails for people to use RVs during the day and bicycles and stuff.
So when you had this encounter, your windows were down on the car, I take it?
About half. So they were cracked. I had them actually down a little bit.
I'll bet you wish you'd had them all the way up, didn't you?
Oh boy. Yeah, I had the crank windows, not the electric. But now, when I go in the woods, I go with no fear. I mean, I used to be terrified of going back in the woods after I saw my first encounter, but I think if you go into the woods with a fear in you, that fear will be around you like an aura, like, hey, he's scared of, whatever, and all animals will pick up on it. Bears, the fear, how dogs can sense fear. It's the same thing with most animals is what I've discovered. And I'm not calling Dogman, Bigfoot an animal. They are somewhere in the middle between a human and an animal, in my opinion, and maybe more advanced than us. So that's another subject here.
Yeah, there's a lot about them we just don't know, that's for sure. Now, backing up, Dave, the morning that you saw that Dogman, let's get into the particulars of what you saw. How tall do you think this Dogman was?
It was approximately 7 foot tall. It had smaller legs and like if you watch like a picture of a Bigfoot, the thinner legs, its shoulders were not as big. Between 350, 380 pounds, 400 maybe. But it moved like it was a 100-pound man that was a track athlete. It was pure muscle. You could actually see muscles bulging out of the hair, that's how close I was. I had my headlights on, and it was just getting light there, and went on my way to work, and it's just, I can never forget it. It's just something that just sticks in your mind forever. It just, when I first saw him, he was in the middle of the road. He stopped at the other side of the road, turned around, let out a sound like, "Arr!" really loud, and then went over by a tree about another 20 feet, just looked at me. His eyes were like a reddish color, I would say, glowing like a whitish reddish. It just was amazing, the way it moved, how big it was. I mean, I'll never forget the ears sticking up, like almost like a dog, like maybe German Shepherd, the ears, and then it had a snout on it, but it was walking on 2 legs, and it was pretty intimidating. If you saw that in the woods, you would definitely be scared, even though I don't know if you should be scared, but I mean, I'm sure it could kill you if it wanted to in 1 second, but I don't know if they want to all the time. That's the whole thing.
Now, talking about its leg structure, Dave, did it have legs more like a canine or like a primate or a hominid?
It was kind of a combo to me. I thought the feet didn't have like toes like a person, more like dog feet, but there was hair all the way down its whole body, even on its feet. But didn't look human-like feet for the Dogman at all. I mean, it looked more like big dog. They weren't round, no, either. They were kind of longer, like a human feet, but they didn't have like pronounced toes. I mean, I couldn't really see the toes as good, maybe, but it was a little dark. But from what I saw, it looked more like dog-like legs than human legs to me, but I could be wrong because I wasn't really looking at the legs so much as I was looking at the big teeth and head.
I can't say I blame you. That's where I think I'd be focusing. Talking about the legs, the dogman you saw, do you remember if it did have conventional knees like a hominid, or you said the legs were, in a way, canine-like? Did it have that reverse knee look that a canine has got?
Yes, it did. Like a bowed leg, almost. A little bit, but not in between, you know, almost in between. Like a little bit human, but not quite. You know, in between dog legs and human legs, the way I could explain it. A little bowed, like a dog's, yes.
You said that you don't think they're as dangerous as most people think they are. From what you're saying, you don't think that people that venture out into the woods unarmed necessarily have anything to worry about if those things are around?
99 times out of 100, they're going to be scared of you and try to get away from you. The only way is if they had something they were protecting in the area and you started going towards that. You know, like say a dog's protecting a bone, or they're territorial to me. The ones I've come across, it's more like you're invading their space. So that's what I think. I don't think they're as dangerous as people think, even though they are very scary and very, 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 very big, and it looks like they could tear you apart in 1 second if they wanted to. So I think a whole lot of more people would be dead if they was out there trying to kill people. That's what I'm saying.
Since you had both a dogman encounter and a Bigfoot encounter, how did those two encounters compare?
The dogman was totally way more intense. It was my first one. It was changed my life, changed my way of thinking about how I am, you know, what's on this earth. The second one was at night, and I wasn't by myself this time. I was with my cousin Ron. We had been working on cars all day, and he wanted to take a break, go out to state land, drive his truck out there like we've done 20, 30 times. And then we went out there and we're having a couple, you know, have a couple beers, sitting around in the car. Of course, that's totally illegal, but hey, we're in the middle of Michigan where nobody cares. So, and it's state land, and it goes a little private road back to our houses. So anyway, we're sitting there in the car and got the car off, got some radio on a little bit, you know, and next thing you know, a big old something's in the wood, because we could see, because we had our parking lights on, not the headlights, but the orange ones. You know, you go in there and we turn them orange lights on. You could see pretty good around you, about 20, 30 feet. And it was also a full moon that night, so you really could see a little better. And this was in about 2003, in August 2003, this happened on state land. It came out, a Bigfoot, is what I would say it was, because it didn't have ears, didn't have a snout. It walked on the side of us, and I must have seen the lights or this or that, but it never got close enough for me to really, really see it really well, but I could tell that it wasn't a person, and it wasn't a guy in a ghillie suit. I mean, it was probably 40 yards away, 50 maybe, but we just stayed there in the truck. We didn't go anywhere. We didn't have cameras on us or anything at that time. We just stayed there in the truck, and we're just looking around. And finally, you know, it walked off after like 2 minutes after seeing it, and we didn't see it anymore. But we kept hearing, you know, all these howls, and actually a tree knock that night, which I didn't even know what that was at the time. But something knocking on trees, and that spot is a spot I go to still to this day, and I've had success seeing things and catching glimpses of things. Never had a sighting like the first one. No, I don't know if I ever will. I mean, but you try. You keep trying, you know, that's all you can do.
When you had that second encounter, did you handle that better than the first? It sounds like you did.
The second one, my cousin's like, dude, what did you see? Blah, 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 blah. He didn't tell any of his family about it, though, when he first saw it. And, but the second one, I wasn't even scared. Almost like, you know, that was nothing to me. It didn't seem dangerous at all. I mean, it didn't seem like it wanted us gone or anything, because it probably would have let us know. You know, it is a little 2-track road we were on. You know, we were in the middle of the woods, yeah, but I mean, we weren't out of the car trying to bother things or anything. We were sitting in the car. Now, both these times I was in a car, believe it or not. The other couple times is when I would go around at night, and they can hear you so much when you're walking around. They know you're there. I mean, there's no way they don't know you're there. I mean, when you're walking around at night, you're at a very, very big disadvantage. Big time. They live there in the woods. We don't. Big difference.
With all the research you've done, what kind of tips do you have for an inexperienced researcher who wants to get out there in the field and do what you do?
It depends what you want to find. I mean, for Bigfoot sightings, you know, I'm an admin for Bigfoot community, and a lot of times, you know, those great people on there. But a lot of times I'll say, you know, you got to find a spot. We'll check out the BFRO reports. For every state, there's one, and that's from Mr. Moneymaker's group. They'll tell you when it's the most recent sighting, what county, approximately where. Then, you know, you got to put your time in. You can't just go, okay, we're going to go Bigfooting, you know, and go one time for an hour. Well, it don't work like that. You got to put hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but it's a lot of hard work. You know, it ain't like you're going to go see one. The best way is by accident, like I did the first time. That's easy. When you're looking for them, it's a whole lot harder.
Now, you've got a website that acts as a database for people who have had encounters. Please tell us about that website.
Oh, well, it was started by Adam Bird, and I agreed to take it over because I've actually, you know, had a Dogman sighting, and we have about 500 members. It's private right now. If you would ask me on Facebook, David Keilman, Keilman, you could add me as a friend, and I could add you on the Dogman Believer site. Also, Vic's on there, posts his radio show and everything like that, and I appreciate what he does on there too. But I try to post something every day about Dogman, Wolfmen, werewolves, which are connected, Rougarou, Shapeshifter, something related to Dogman every day on there. And the people on there are great. It's like they share pictures. I mean, they'll share experience. The trick, I'm trying to get people to do what I did. I haven't shared none of this information with anybody. And me coming on this radio show is kind of like a coming out for me to, you know, let people know there are animals out there we can't explain. And Dogman is definitely one of them. And our Facebook group helps people, whether they're new to Dogman, helps them, you know, like how if you're scared, maybe you need a dog spray at your house, or maybe you need a air horn. These are all things that can maybe scare them away, you know, if you were frightened or they came around your house, something like that. But I try to help people on there with their experiences and understand that this is not a new thing. This has been on for hundreds and hundreds of years. You go back in the Indian, all the Indian lores have, you know, Dogman, they have Bigfoot. They didn't make stories up about things that didn't exist. I mean, they would try to explain them through the stories. Maybe they were a little off on their stories, but, you know, isn't everybody? I mean, nobody's perfect. A lot of what's going on today can be explained by going back through Algonquin legends and Cherokee legends and a lot of, you know, Native American, I call it Native, was what I'm part Algonquin Indian as well. I don't consider myself an Indian. I'm a Native, you know, that's what I call it, part Native, whatever you want to call it. But they've always been out there for hundreds of years. It's just now that people are starting to realize that, wow, there's something out there. You know, I don't know if it's shows or what, but people are starting to realize now.
With all the people that contact you, Dave, to share the details of their encounters with you, I'm sure that you go through the same thing that I do with the people that contact me. It seems like a strangely high percentage of them have the impression, before they talk to you, that they're the only ones on Earth that have ever encountered a Dogman. Do you notice that also?
Yes, they're very, very rare. And you know, when people say, wow, I saw this guy and this with the snout and ears, and I know exactly what they're talking about, and I'm there for them. If anybody out there has seen anything, please contact me, on my Facebook site, or just add me as a friend. I'd be willing to help anybody out there. I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing this for fame. I'm just doing it to simply get it out there that these creatures exist. And, you know, I don't know if they need to be protected by the government. I don't agree with that either. People can't find them now. How are they gonna, you know, bother them if they're protected? So, it's just, they are out there. Some of these newer people that have seen them, you know, and are scared of them, you know, you have every right to be. But there are things that, you know, you can protect yourself with, like a dog spray, and I'm sure their ears are way more sensitive, so like an air horn, you know, loud sounds. They hate loud sounds. I know that for a fact. So, but they're attracted to music from a distance, but they only get so close. But these new people, you know, that have new sightings, you're not alone, okay? There's thousands of people that have seen the Dogman. There's hundreds of people just in my area in Reed City, Michigan, that have seen the Dogman. This is not uncommon. Look it up. Reed City, Michigan, Dogman encounter. It's all over the internet. This is one of the hot spots in the whole world. It's right here in Osceola County, Michigan, right where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that place does seem to be like the Vatican for Dogman activity, no doubt about that. When an eyewitness contacts you, Dave, to share their story with you, what's your main goal that you want to accomplish when someone like that is shaken up by the encounter and they contact you about it?
Well, I always say I saw one 19 years ago, and I've got to see one again, but I was wrong, because not only like a week ago I think I've seen another one, but the point is, it's rare to see one. For them to present themselves, there had to be something going on. They came up to your car and you were in your car. That's so lucky of you to see them. You should feel blessed. To see these animals, to see these creatures. I would say, if anybody was to do anything, please try to take one alive, not dead. You're not going to learn nothing from a dead animal. So that's my advice.
To take one alive, how would you recommend doing that? Because when you look at the obstacles you would face, it would not be easy.
Yeah, it would definitely not be easy. I'm not actively trying to do this, by the way, for my BC people there, but I'm not going to try to tell people how to capture a Bigfoot or a Dogman, but this is what I, personally. You go to your spot, you have your food out there, I always turn my cameras off, believe it or not. I don't know if they can hear them. When I'm not at my building, I turn them on, but when I'm at the building, I turn them off, because there's a building I have it with a food plot in the middle of the woods, okay? There's nothing around, not even electricity there. So I use solar, and the best thing to do to capture one, in my opinion, is to give them something in food, okay, and make them get knocked out or something like that. But they have to take it, and they have to trust you first. You'd have to betray them to capture one. You see what I'm saying? They've built up a little bit of a trust there, I believe.
What's scary about that idea, though, Dave, is, as you know, it's not uncommon for them to be seen running in packs, more than one.
Yeah, more than one, right, absolutely. I've never seen more than one together myself, Bigfoot or Dogman, either one. But you've got to realize these beings are so rare. Just see one once, you're blessed. For me to see one 3-4 times is amazing. It's really amazing. It really is.
You have had 3 to 4 encounters with Dogman, then?
2 Dogman, 2 Sasquatch.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Tell us about the second encounter for the Dogman.
I was putting out bait, apples, for bow hunting. I go bow hunting every year. I kept hearing coyotes. Yip, yip, yip. You know, the coyotes. And all of a sudden, one screamed out, like it wasn't a coyote, like, rah, you know, like it was with them. And I was putting out food about 5 miles from my dad's, where my hunting area is, I guess I call it, even though I don't rifle hunt, I just bow hunt. But, and there's a lake there, and that was a faraway glimpse, but I could actually see the ears sticking up, and it was with coyotes, like 3 or 4 of them. And, this was during the day, okay? So I've never heard of one during the day before like that, but it happened. This was, in 2010. So.
Was it on all fours when you saw it with the coyotes, or up on 2?
It was. And then it got up and it ran on 2. I don't know if they go on all fours, just, that's something I was going to mention. Very, very good question. It was running around on all fours, and then it stood up and it ran on 2. I mean, but it was far away, but I could actually see that it stood up and ran away on 2 legs, which was kind of weird. When I first saw the dogman the first time, it was on 2 legs the whole time. And the second one didn't appear as big as the first one, either. Maybe it was a younger one or something, I don't know. But the second one was so near to here that I don't even like telling people, because, you know, I don't want my kids scared, and, oh, I'm not going to Papa's, Bigfoot's there, you know.
That wouldn't be good.
You know. No, not for them, you know. But yeah, we live in a very secluded part of Michigan here, and it's not very many people around. So it's the ideal for. There's lots of stories around here when they were cutting all the trees down of them seeing Sasquatches and dogmen in the 1800s. When they cut all the trees down here, you know, the lumbering, all kinds of sightings, hundreds. And that was when they were cutting the trees down in the 1800s. So that's a long, rich history of, you know, these animals, these creatures.
Going back to the second dogman that you saw, Dave, when it got up onto 2 legs and ran away, it's not unusual for someone to report seeing them stand up onto 2 legs when they are confronted with a fence or some other type of reason for standing up on 2 legs and running. Did you see yours face any type of an obstacle or a good reason to stand up on 2 legs and run away?
I think maybe it runs faster that way. That's the only thing I could think of, because I purposely made a big sound and then they ran away because I didn't like the coyotes being by me. I purposely, you know, like hit a tree so they would run away. I didn't want the coyotes to come by me because they will bite you. They will get you. And of course, I don't want dogman to come real near to me either. I don't think they would hug me.
Yeah, probably not. Kind of makes you wonder if they would act a little differently if they were with a pack of coyotes, maybe be a little more cheeky or something.
Like, yeah, these are my attack dogs, you know.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
No, that's an idea. I mean, it's just amazing that you know, some of these people that have been up here all these years, never seen nothing like that, but they don't take the time to look. You gotta take the time to look. If you don't take the time to look, you won't find nothing. If you're on the computer watching, YouTube all day and playing on your phone all day, you're not going to find nothing in the woods.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was there a main turning point that made you decide to go ahead and create that website so that people could contact you?
Adam actually created the website and I took it over, but I was one of the first ones that he asked because he knew, you know, that I had seen a dogman. And was very interested. He just had too much, Adam Bird had way too much going on. He has like 10 Facebook pages, and he's constantly traveling around all over the whole world and stuff looking for things. But when he turned that over to me, I was already one of the main posters on there and doing most of the work anyway. So he's like, well, yeah, you might as well just take it over, you know. So he agreed with it, you know.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, 10 of those is a lot to try and maintain. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, just way too many. I'm an admin on 2, and that's enough for me.
It always amazes me. Well, it shouldn't amaze me, but so many people that come forward and share their encounters with you had the impression that there was no one, no place to go to unload the stress, the load that they've been carrying for however length of time it's been since they had their encounter, and when they finally get to talk to you about that. It's good that they know that there is a Dave Kyleman out there, that there's Victor Cundiff out there to talk to, that there are places like your website where they can go and just hang out and talk to other dogman eyewitnesses. It's important that they know that.
Yeah, it is a secret site as of right now, so you will have to add me as a friend before I add you to the Dogman. Some people go on there just to cause trouble, and I don't want that. So I want to actually screen every person before I add them. So that's what I've been doing lately, and it's working. So
if someone listens to this podcast, Dave, and they don't have access to the link that I've posted on my website so that they can find you to approach you about joining that Facebook page.
Yeah, I'll spell my name out. It's DAVIDKEILMAN, and I am a senior, but it's not senior on there. And you can add me as a friend, and I don't care if there's 1,000 of you. I will go through every one of you and put you on Dogman Believer site, and we can work on this, and we can learn together. It can be done.
Well, Dave, I definitely appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on. Do you have any closing points you'd like to make for listeners?
Just, if you want to see a Dogman, if you want to see a Sasquatch, get out there at nighttime in the woods. I use marine tactics a lot of times. I will cover myself with leaves and lay on the ground for 3-4 hours at a time. Just watch. I mean, a lot of people don't have the gumption or the nerve to do that, to lay on the ground, or patience to do that. But if you really want to see something, you have to go to an area that's been known to have sightings. There's people that have active things going on right now. If I had the money and resources, I would be on my way to Missouri right now to go see a certain lady that he's going to have on the show coming up, I believe, soon. Next Friday or something, Vic?
Actually, this particular lady is from Kentucky. She's not
Kentucky,
from Missouri,
okay.
but...
All right, okay. Well, there's another one out there that I really want to go to her house. There's some very active things going on. She's by an Indian burial ground in,
Yeah, she's in Iowa.
Iowa, thank you, Iowa. Yeah, there's definitely something going on there big time right now.
Yeah, the lady that you're talking about, there is, for the longest time, there's been crazy amounts of dogman activity on her property and Bigfoot activity.
Absolutely. She has both, and it is so secluded there, as I am here, that it could happen like that. And also there's the native connection as we have here. So it's all just connected somehow. We just got to put the pieces together, and, that's how we're going to do it, is get it out there and work together. And we can't do this by fighting and arguing with each other. We can agree to disagree on certain things, and it's just, nobody's wrong, because nobody's an expert. I never say, hey, you're wrong. That ain't how it is. I've never said that. And I never will, because I don't know it all. Nobody knows it all.
Isn't that the truth? Well, thanks again, Dave, so much for coming on. It's been great talking with you. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Maybe you'll have me again one day.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As you know, I'll be in touch. I'm always on your Facebook page chatting away, so yeah, it won't be long. Well, thanks again. Don't be a stranger, and I will talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye. Episode 6. Hello, thanks for joining us for this special Wednesday night episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. I'm Vic Cundiff, and I'll be your host as we listen to eyewitness encounters involving one of the most terrifying cryptids, dogmen. How many times have you been in the woods when you would have sworn you weren't alone? You would have given almost anything to know for sure if there really was something out there watching you, or if maybe it was just a figment of your imagination. Our guest tonight, Richard Eady, has an unusual knack for seeing things in the woods. He's here tonight to talk about that knack as well as the dogman encounter he had years ago. Richard, welcome to Dogman Encounters Radio.
Well, thanks, Vic. Thank you for inviting me.
You've got a lot of knowledge to share. I'm really looking forward to hearing about all the good things you have to say. I found out about you and your knack for noticing things in videos. People send you videos, I've noticed, to have you analyze them, and it just shocked me how many things that you notice that were in these videos that the people who sent them to you had no idea about.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just, a knack it seems I have.
It's funny how so many people just live their day-to-day lives ignoring what's around them. They have their thoughts on other things, everything but what's right there in front of them. Have you always been so observant, or is that something that you had to develop over the years?
I guess I've just developed it over the years. I see things that other people don't see. I can't explain it.
To get the point across that you do know your way around the woods, please tell our listeners about the time you've spent in the woods and how you came to be so knowledgeable about it.
I was born and raised on a small farm. It's a very lightly sparse populated suburban area. So I was always out in the woods when I was a kid and doing my research. Well, I do Bigfoot research mostly, but I'm open to all aspects of it, everything else that goes along with it. I'm not just looking at one thing, one creature. I'm looking for everything. That's how I've come across seeing the dogman at one time.
When you were a kid, did you have an interest in Bigfoot or things that go bump in the night?
No, actually I didn't. I saw one when I was a kid, about 12 years old, but I thought it was a bad dream until I was in high school. I happened to see a picture of one. So I wasn't interested in any of that. Didn't know anything about it. Back in the 60s, you didn't have the information that you have nowadays.
Before you saw that Bigfoot when you were 12, did you even have an idea that they were out there?
No, sir. None.
You mentioned your dogman encounter. Please tell us the chain of events that led up to you being at the location where you had that encounter.
I researched like I used to squirrel hunt back when I was young. I used to hunt all the time. And when I squirrel hunt, you take a few steps and then you stop and listen. And you take a few steps and you stop and listen, and you pay attention to what's in front of you, behind you, all around you. And just that one instance, I was having my camera pointing down the path I was taking, and I turned to my left on the other hill, say about 100 yards, about 50 yards away from me, at the rise of the next ridge stop there was this thing standing there looking right straight at me, and it was a dogman, no doubt in my mind.
How far away was it?
I'm guessing about 50, 60 yards away, something like that. Might be a little bit more. Not much more than that, I don't think.
Wow, that's pretty close. Was there anything between you and that dogman blocking your view of it?
No, Vic, there was absolutely nothing, just air. Of course, I'm in the forest, but there was a gully and then back up and then the hillside, the hill right there, so there was absolutely nothing in the way of me seeing it. I seen it clearly.
Now, what time of year was this?
I'm thinking it was early fall, just about this time of year right now. Bright, clear day.
When you saw this dogman, had it already noticed that you were there and it was standing there watching you?
I guess I caught it when it was walking or something. I don't know, because when I turned around and looked at it, it froze. Straight, just froze solid, still like a statue. but I could tell it wasn't a tree or anything because I could see the ears sticking straight out from its head, and I could see the snout, I could see the legs, I could see everything. But the moment I turned around just for a second, because whenever I see something like this, you should keep your eye on it, but at the same time, you don't know if this is a setup and there's something getting ready to attack you from behind. So, you know, just like all the creatures, you know, when you see one, pay attention, especially behind you. Really listen. And I heard something like a stick snap or something, and I turned my head. When I looked back around, it was gone.
Wow, that really makes you wonder if it wasn't alone and one of its buddies did distract you so that it could disappear.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just always, when I'm out there without any firearm or anything, I'm just out there with a stick and my camera. I'm just trying to stay aware of everything around me.
Since it was 50 to 60 yards away and nothing was blocking your view of it, you obviously got a really good view of how it looked. As far as size goes, how tall was it?
I'd say approximately about 7 feet tall. 7.5 feet tall.
That's pretty normal for size. As far as weight goes, how much do you think it weighed?
Oh, probably about good 300 pounds, I guess. It wasn't fat or anything. I mean, it was slim and well built, but just from some of the muscular, I guess you'd say, so muscle weighs quite a bit. I'm guessing probably right around 300 pounds.
On prior shows, I've mentioned the fact that I'm convinced that there are two different types of cryptids out there that people refer to as being dogmen. You've got a canine type that basically, in most cases, looks like a wolf that's standing upright on two legs. You've also got a type of cryptid that looks more Bigfoot-like, but it's got a snout, whereas obviously Bigfoot does not. Sasquatches do not. This one that you saw, I take it was standing facing you so that you didn't get to see a side profile of its muzzle, correct?
No, I did get to see a side profile. I saw the frontal view of the body, but the side profile of the snout, and I'd say the snout looked like a German Shepherd almost.
So it did have an elongated snout, just like a wolf or a German Shepherd then?
Yes, sir. Yes.
As far as its legs went, did its legs look canine with that backwards knee look?
Absolutely canine, yes.
What state was this in?
In southwest Ohio.
Southwest Ohio, okay. Now, as far as color goes, was this one black, or if not, what kind of color?
Brown. It's about the same brown as what you have on a German Shepherd, that sandy brown color.
Did its fur look long, about the same length as a German Shepherd's?
Yeah, pretty close. But now its legs were different. I mean, the legs were the same as a dog, but you know how a hyena is speckled? From the waist down, it had like polka dots. Black rings in the fur, on the brown fur, all the way down.
Oh, interesting. Did you notice, as far as its arms went, or upper limbs go, were they unnaturally long in appearance, or did they look fairly normal length for, say, a wolf that was up on two legs?
You know, I saw the front legs, sitting there trying to remember. I guess they looked about normal except for the hands. The hands looked more like our hands, only being dog paws.
I think I follow you. Could you explain that a little more?
Well, it's like the fingers look like they were sticking out like our fingers would, unnatural for a dog with a thumb, like our thumb, but it was covered in fur and looked like it had claws like a dog, but they were moving like we move our hands instead of the way a dog would with paws.
Oh, that makes sense.
But I didn't really see it move because it was sticking still, but just the way it was standing there with its fingers splayed out, that's the way it looked. It looked more human-like than animal.
Did you ever hear it make any sounds?
No.
You were 50 to 60 yards away, so it might not have been likely that you would have smelled anything, but I still need to ask.
No, there was no odor whatsoever.
After that twig or stick snap behind you. Did that plant the seed? You already mentioned that you're always aware to the fact in a situation like that it might be a setup. There might be more than one. Did that whole idea that it was not alone, especially after that stick snapped, was that at the front of your thoughts, or were you just mainly focused on that one in front of you?
No, I'm always focused on what's around me when I'm out in the woods.
What do you have to say, Rick, about people that go out camping, unarmed, alone, that have no idea that these things are out there?
Well, even just for the animals that are in the wherever you're camping at, you can get online and find out what the natural habitat and the natural animals are. I'm sure you have some type of predators. You always need to safeguard and think ahead. It's like I talk to rangers quite often, let them know what I'm doing, let them know I'm not a kook. And they all agree with me. I go out, I don't always go out with my backpack, but even when I do go out, I have a belt type arrangement where I keep fluids with me, a compass. I keep 2 compasses. I keep fire starting material. Of course, I smoke, so I always have a lighter, but I always carry an extra lighter, 2 extra flashlights, batteries, and of course my cell phone. You always got to think ahead, because if you're out there in the woods and something happens to you, or you can break a leg, or something happens if you got a companion with you, you need to be able to think on, are you going to be able to carry them out, or are they going to be able to carry you out, or, you always have to think about that. And then, as far as weapons, you always got to think about that too. What are you going to do if you confront a bear? Do you have bear spray, or do you have a horn, or do you have a weapon? You have to think about that.
Things that so many people never even consider before they head on out into the wilderness, and that's a shame. After you had that one encounter with the dog man, have there ever been other times where you think you might have been in the presence of one?
No, not really. I've seen some footprints that I thought were rather large for a dog. Good 4 inches across. I've seen that in the general area. And they were only just 3-toed. There was no paw print in the back, so I thought that was really strange. But that was about it.
After you saw that dog man standing over there looking at you, how did that play out? Did you head for the high country, or did you stand there until obviously you turned around and it was gone? Did you head that direction to look for prints? How'd that play out?
No, after seeing that thing, I'm not, especially with no gun or anything on me, I'm not too big on looking for it, I didn't want to tangle with that thing. But I sat there for a while, stood there for a while, I laid up against a tree and tried to blend in, and just stood still and, see if I seen any movement or anything that would catch my eye anywhere around me. I never did see anything, but, I was trying to be incognito in the woods and see if something would try to sneak around or poke its head out from a tree and look at me, and nothing ever came about.
Did you, later on down the road, ever come back there with a friend or with more protection and look for evidence or anything?
I never did. I've been back there with different people, and of course I had protection. Actually, I forgot about it. It seems like, I don't know, I have a hit-and-miss memory, seems like. Things that I try to remember, I can remember, like that right there, but since I mostly focus my research on Bigfoot, I took that dogman encounter as just another strange creature that I come across in my research.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever fully prepared to see something like that. Bigfoot is all over the news, obviously. You can't hardly turn on the TV without seeing a show about Bigfoot. But since Dogman, as you know, just does not get any attention, it seems like, when you do run into something like one, how can you not just be floored by it? So that's understandable. Most of the people that have sent you videos to analyze, Rick, have been related to Bigfoot, but I've seen on YouTube some videos that people have sent to you that just might contain dogmen. Could you talk about some of those videos and what you found in them?
Well, yeah, there was on YouTube. I'm 73 Roadrunner 1, and it was some different people that they weren't actually send them to me. What happens if I see a video that I like, and I'll email the person, or I'll get on YouTube, and I'll write out, hey, can I have permission to review it? And if, you have to ask permission first nowadays. In the old days you didn't have to, but now you do. And if they say okay, then I'll go ahead and do a review. And I said, is it okay if I posted my review on there? And they said, well, can I, look at it first? And if they okay it, then I go ahead and do it. But TCSJR Bigfoot, he and Blue Tiger 1 were doing a video, and I happened to capture where a limb broke behind them. And when I slowed it down, and I have no fancy equipment or anything, all thing I have is the same computer and screen that you have, and a mouse. And all I do is just take my index finger and start really fast with the mouse. That's the only thing I do. And when I slowed the video down, you could see right there behind them, not very far behind them, there was something back there broke a limb over. It doesn't look like a Bigfoot. It doesn't look exactly like a dogman because the snout's missing, but everything else about it looks like a dogman. So I don't know what it is.
That is a really interesting video for anyone that hasn't seen that. Like Rick mentioned, if you go on to YouTube and do a search for his name, his screen name, you'll see that video and plenty others that are very interesting just like that. I didn't ask you, Rick, do you go out looking for dogmen, trying to seek out a possible encounter now?
No, actually, I don't look for dogmen. There's so much. Bigfoot's rare enough as it is, and let alone dogman. I just figured that's just going to be another chance encounter. But now, some of the Indian people that I speak to online, they say that there's a lot of different creatures that hang around Bigfoot. A lot of them that the Indians were terrified of, and Indians aren't afraid of anything I know of. Dogman is one of them they're afraid of. I've done a lot of research, and there's a possibility that dogman and all that is related to some of the Egyptian deities. I've kind of been going down that line, see if any of them of the pictures of the deities from the Egyptian times look similar to what I saw. I'm not up on all of them, but yeah, I was going through the male ones. I haven't gone through the female ones yet. I don't know the one I looked at, being canine, you're not going to have the same body references as you do with a Bigfoot or a woman or a man, or, You're not going to be able to tell a male from a female on a dog man like you can Bigfoot or with people.
That makes sense. I can't remember once hearing an eyewitness say that they noticed any genitalia on a dogman that they saw.
Yeah, the only difference you'd have would be the tits. If, one was nursing pups or something. That's the only thing you'd be able to tell that I know of.
You just hit on something I want to talk about, at least a little bit. It's obvious in Native American culture you see totem poles reflecting the existence of Sasquatch, but I can't remember ever seeing any references like that to dogmen. I'm not saying that Native Americans didn't have dogmen as even a big part of their culture, but from talking to your Native American friends, have they shared with you why you just don't seem to see dogmen being mentioned publicly in their culture?
No, I haven't. I didn't really ask them anything about dogmen. I asked them one time about Bigfoot, and they just don't really want to talk about this stuff to us. What they told me was they exist, they're there, and that was the end of the subject. It was almost as if I was breaching a taboo subject. I wasn't privy to it. I got a real cold shoulder on that one. That was odd to me.
From what I hear, that's a pretty common reaction when someone like you or me inquires about dogmen or Bigfoot. Unless you know them really well, you normally don't get much info.
Yeah, it's strange because I'm engaged to one, and my mother-in-law's 99% Cherokee, and that's the answer. She was very cold about it to me, which is really odd.
Wow, yeah, that is strange. I wonder, too, if it's because of their fear. I know there are a lot of Native Americans, from what I've been told, that, and I've heard some of them say this, that they believe talking about things like dogmen or skinwalkers tends to have a way of bringing them on. I wonder if that's lying at the base of why they don't like to talk about it.
Very good, yeah. I believe there's a very good possibility of that. But that's strange, though, because when you talk about stuff, just like a mass of people thinking one item, then all of a sudden you'll start noticing it more. But when you're out in the woods, the less you think about it, the more likely you'll come across it.
No, that's a good point. I never thought about that, but that does make sense. Talking about going out and looking for one of these things, what kind of advice would you have to give to someone that wants to go out and try to find a dog man?
Well, take a big gun first thing. Take one big enough to break down a bear. Biggest thing when I'm doing my research and things is like, and I tell people all this all the time, is really pay attention to the shadows. If you can see the shadows going in one direction away from the sun, you gotta really pay attention to the shadows, because sometimes there might be something standing on the opposite side of the tree, facing you, and right off the bat you thinking it's a shadow coming off another tree, and it might. I've seen videos where things were standing right in front of people and they didn't see them.
You said pay attention to the shadows. You're looking for a shadow that's moving?
Or a shadow that's opposite direction of the rest of the shadows, or a shadow that's somewhere where, if you sit there and look at the trees and where all these shadows are, and also there's one shadow that's there that you don't see where it would originate from, like a shadow of possibly a tree, but there's no tree there to cast a shadow. So it's a good possibility it's not a shadow.
Oh, I see. That makes sense. I've got you. You mentioned going out prepared for running into one of these things, being armed, in other words. How dangerous do you think they are?
Well, just like any wild animal, if it is true an animal, it could be very dangerous. They're extremely quiet, they're extremely fast, and, that's their environment. Given the right opportunity, I'm sure they can be very dangerous. But they seem to be, the one encounter I had, they seem to want absolutely nothing to do with us.
That's one of the frustrating things about this whole phenomenon, Rick. I see more people than I should that are convinced that there's no danger associated with being in the presence of a dog man. Yes, there are loads and loads of reported encounters where people come into close proximity with one of these things and walk away unscathed. No problem. They didn't even have any aggressive display sent their way from the dog man they encountered. But there are encounters also out there where that wasn't the case. I've seen people online make comments such as that they think that dogmen are just big dogs. If you don't threaten them, there's nothing to worry about whatsoever. From what you've said, I take it you don't subscribe to that idea.
No. First off, they're meat eaters. They're canine. That's what they eat, and that's what I'm made out of. All creatures out of the woods, you don't know. Are you walking, do they have young? Are they going to be protecting their young, just like bears or cougars or anything else? You don't know what their temperament or are they hungry right then? You don't know. If you're out there by yourself, if you have somebody with you, then that's even better. But if you're out there by yourself, you have to think of all contingencies and just don't take for granted what somebody sits on a couch on the internet's going to type out. Don't believe that. If you're out there in the woods, just be prepared for everything. That's what the rangers want you to be. They don't want to have to go out there looking for a body.
Yeah, I'm sure that definitely wouldn't be a good situation. Going back to your encounter, who did you tell? Did you go home and tell someone about what you had seen, or did you keep it to yourself?
No, I guess I kept it to myself. I might have told a few of my YouTube friends. There was like a small circle of researchers. I might have mentioned something to them. Have you ever seen anything like this out there? There's a lot of things I see out there that we really don't talk about that much, because I don't just focus on one straight thing. I engulf the whole spectrum of this research, and dogman is just part of it.
Since dogmen seem to be so rare, do you ever think they are ever going to be proven to exist?
Given time, yeah, probably. I would say so, because, you might be talking 200 or 300 years. You don't know. It might be 50 years, or it might be 10 years. You never know. You just don't know. There's no way to expect what's going to happen in the future.
It comes as a surprise, but there are loads of people out there that are neck deep into this that couldn't care less if they are discovered or officially recognized as a living species. Having said all that, do you care whether dogmen are or aren't officially recognized?
No, not really. I know what I saw, and or I have seen while I've been out there. I tell you one thing, though. I mean, I know what I've seen. I don't need no scientist to tell me what I saw or didn't see. But I can tell you one thing, things are a lot different than they were 30 years ago. There's a lot more out there than there was back in the old days.
Oh, there are more dogmen out there, you're saying, than what there used to be.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot more sign. You see a lot more footprints. Now, it might be because I notice more now than I did, say, 30 years ago. But even, I talked to a lot of hunters, and they go, I never seen anything like that. I've been out in the woods all the time, blah, blah, you know, and I tell everybody, it's like, when you go to the grocery store and you're going to go buy diapers, did you see that sale on toothpicks over there? No, you didn't, because you were looking for diapers. That's the same thing when you're hunting. You're looking for deer, you're looking for rabbit or squirrel, you're not looking for anything else. So you're not going to see the dog man or the Sasquatch or, you know, unless the one just jumps out in front of you. So there could be a lot more going on out there than anybody realizes.
Also, too, if there is more sign out there now, if they're being seen more often now than how many there were that were being seen back 30 years ago, when you consider how many more people there were that were out in the woods some time ago compared to how many go out in the woods now, that should really say something about how their numbers are increasing. Having said all that, do you have any idea why it might be that their numbers are growing so much?
I don't know if it's so much that their numbers are growing, but there's a lot more people now than there was before, and a lot more people going out in the woods. So it's just like opening day with deer season. The more people there are in the woods, the more the critters out there move around. And the more they move around, the more likely you're going to have a sighting.
I didn't ask you, Rick, when we were talking about the whole whether you cared if they were proven to exist or not. I didn't ask you if you were pro-kill or no-kill.
I don't really want to kill anything. I did a lot of hunting when I was younger, and I don't have the heart for it now. So, you know, Jane, what was that lady's name? Jane Goodall did the mountain gorillas. She didn't kill any of them to prove that their existence. So I'm kind of on the no-kill side.
I definitely agree. I'm not a fan of the idea of going out and killing one of these things. For those out there that do subscribe to that idea, I've heard a lot of them mention ideas that I don't see how they could possibly pull it off without putting themselves in a very sticky position where they might be the ones that are done in by the situation.
Yeah, I believe I honestly believe that these creatures would have retribution against you if you did something like that, or your family, who knows?
I'll bet you're right. Can you imagine what would happen if you did happen to kill a dog man and it wasn't alone and its family members saw that? I can't even imagine what would happen.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's one thing I have learned about this research is just because you're out in the woods doing your research and you think, well, I'm going out of the woods and getting in my car, I'm going to go home. Well, the things happen at home sometimes too. I'm not going into the bad side of it or anything, but you'll hear things and you know something's around you. Something follows you home sometimes. You just got to be careful if you're going to be going out there to shoot one.
The Native Americans that you were talking to about this probably didn't touch on this. You probably didn't even ask about this, but what are your thoughts on dogmen and Bigfoot occupying the same area? I've heard it told both ways. There's a camp that believes that they mix like oil and water. They never come together, or that when a dogman or dogmen come into a given area where Sasquatch are, that drives the Sasquatch off. I've also received reports from eyewitnesses telling me that they saw a dogman and Sasquatch together. What's your take on that? Any opinions?
Well, the dogman was in the area where I was doing the research, and I've seen a lot of footprints from Bigfoot, and obviously they were together in that area where I was doing my research. And the Indians that I've spoken to, they said one usually is hand in hand with the other.
Oh, they did say that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. You mentioned how you need to watch your P's and Q's because if you have that sounds like trouble howling in the background, is it?
Yeah, it's my dog. My girlfriend and her daughter just got home, so.
For anyone listening, Trouble is the name of Rick's dog. If you haven't seen Trouble, yeah. Trouble's cute as a button, I'll tell you what.
A little bit bigger now, but yeah.
No doubt about that. Now, you talked about being careful in what you do to them because they can have a way of possibly following you home. Does your area where you live, does it have a history of dogman encounters or activity?
Not that I know of. Like you say, it's so sparsely spoken of. I've never spoken to anybody else that has an encounter or anything. So it's not fair for me. I can't really give you a good answer on that because I don't know.
That's definitely a good thing, it sounds like. I don't think you'd want to have to worry about dealing with them hanging around if you have to go out and chop wood or anything.
No.
What, in your opinion, Rick, is the biggest mistake people that are into dogmen make? What do most of these people have wrong more often than not?
As with most all crippets, I think they just want to go up and check it out too close. I think that's the biggest thing. Keeping an open mind to everything around you, and don't be so narrow-minded. Say, well, I'm only searching for this right here. I'm only out looking for ants. I can't see the anthill, that old phrase.
Can't see the forest for the trees.
Right. Keep an open mind.
With you being into this field for as long as you've been into it, I know you know about David Paulides' books. What's your take on the whole missing 411 postulation that, and David never did come out and say, hey, I do think it's Bigfoot, or hey, I do think it's dogmen that are causing so many people to turn up missing in national parks. But what's your whole take on that? Do you think that possibly it just might be dogmen or Sasquatch that are causing so many hikers and campers to come up missing?
I don't really know. It was a good book, and I haven't read it all. There's a lot into that. A lot of it is just getting lost and then dying of dehydration or whatever. And, of course, the animals will carry off the body. I'm sure of that. And you'll never find anything, any remains. But there's possibility some of it there is related to, dogman and Bigfoot. Possibility. You've heard stories. It's another one of those things that I can't give you an honest opinion because I don't have enough information to do that.
Oh, sure. What's really scary about that, though, Rick, is the fact that one book wasn't enough. There are so many instances of this happening that Dave had to write 3 books to cover, and he still didn't cover it all. Now, that's an eye-opener. Right,
and the biggest thing is the fact that the Forest Service and the Park Service won't do anything about it. They won't, keep any records, or that's the bad part, because they don't want the bad publicity. I understand that, but human life is more important than the publicity.
Oh, sure. One thing that's always gotten me through this is, obviously this is the case with Sasquatch, but it's also the case, in my opinion, with dogmen. When you live in the city, or even in the suburbs, as long as you're not right on the edge of the city or on the edge of the burbs, it's easy to think that I'm so far removed from where they might be that I've got nothing to worry about as far as them being around. But as you well know, with all the waterways and all the tracts of woods that are still reaching into areas like that, who's to say that in the middle of the night or maybe even during the day when no one's in those woods, they're not coming right in up close to where you might be. Any thoughts on that?
Sure, I've seen lots of cases where you can see where something big had been laying down right next to a highway. And I think it was National Geographic or one of them I was watching. A lot of big animals, predators, sometimes live closer to the human population because that's where the food is. People that research crows and that will tell you, the birds will be wherever the humans are because that's where the food is. And I've researched with people that think, well, this animal can't get from these set of woods to the other set of woods. I said, they can cross the road. There's pipes that go underneath the roadways. Even the freeways, people say, well, there's cars on the freeway all the time. Somebody would have said something, well, there's huge pipes where streams run underneath the freeways. They can get around all over the place. They don't need to walk across the roadway all the time.
That's a really good point. Something that is easy to overlook. Yeah, these things are definitely all over in all kinds of places that you would not expect them to be. Well, having said that, Rick, in closing, Do you have any final points you'd like to share with the audience?
No, just keep an open mind and be careful and be safe, and always think about safety when you're out there. Do your research. And everybody says, what do you do if you find one? I always thought about that. I never really knew what I'd do. So you need to think about that too, what you're going to do when you get your evidence.
Those sound like really good words of wisdom. Well, Rick, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom with us. I really do appreciate it. Please don't be a stranger.
Well, I appreciate your invite, and I appreciate the time and enjoy the time we've spoken with one another, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again so much. Well, you have yourself a great night, okay?
All right, you do the same, and thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.